Have you ever stopped to think about what would really happen if Sideshow Bob actually managed to kill Bart? And even worse, have you ever imagined how that death could completely destroy the Simpson family and transform someone you would never expect, like Lisa? When I first watched this segment, I thought it would just be another parody of Cape Fear, that classic story where Sideshow Bob tries to kill Bart for the 1000th time. But this time the script does something no one ever had the courage to do, because the episode begins with something we already know. Bob singing HMS Pinafore while taking Bart and the family to Terror Lake. But instead of Bart escaping with a joke or a last-minute trick, Sideshow Bob actually kills Bart. And it is not symbolic. It is not censored. It is not implied. It is brutal. It is shocking. And it happens right at the beginning. And when I saw that, my mind exploded. I kept thinking, if this had really happened in the series, who would be the person most affected? And then comes the scariest point this episode shows, that the death of Bart would not only destroy the family, it would mainly destroy Lisa. The first key this episode delivers is simple. Every trauma creates a shadow, and that shadow always finds a way to return. In the segment after Bart's death, the story moves forward in time. Lisa grows up, becomes a young adult, and transforms into a criminal psychologist, someone specialized in understanding killers. But what looks like strength and intelligence on the surface actually hides something far darker. Because the series leaves clues from the beginning Lisa never overcame. Bart's death, she only buried the trauma somewhere deep in her mind, and that hidden side begins to reveal itself little by little when several murders start happening in Springfield. Rod Flanders, Montaigne Princey, Dermot, is Sherry McElbry, all killed in similar ways. All firstborn, all following the same disturbing pattern. Lisa realizes she is dealing with something personal, something she knows, something she feels but cannot admit. Here the story delivers its first major impact. It is not just about investigating a killer, it is about confronting your own ghosts. But there is a detail in this episode that nobody notices. The first time, a detail that completely changes the way you see Lisa. Because the answer to the murders was never out there, it was always inside her. The second key of this episode is even heavier. The brain always finds a way to protect you, even if that means creating a monster. When Lisa visits Sideshow Bob in prison, looking for answers, he not only refuses but provokes her. He says ambiguous phrases. He throws the blame back at her. He knows something she does not know or does not want to know. And when Lisa finally finds the killer's hideout, an abandoned slaughterhouse, identical to her old bedroom, with recordings and personal belongings, she discovers the truth. She discovers the truth. The killer was always herself, a version of her personality created by trauma, by loss, by the pain she pretended to overcome. The episode is not about a mystery. It is about how trauma destroys the mind, how pain changes who you are, how even the most intelligent and sensitive person in Springfield can break inside. Bart's death did not only affect Lisa, it transformed her, it divided her. It's created a monster inside her, and that monster had only one purpose: to finish what began years ago at Terror Lake. Lisa begins to investigate the murders with an intensity that feels less like duty and more like obsession. She studies every photograph, every wound, every message left behind on the victims' bodies. She spends nights in her office, surrounded by case files, murmuring possible motives, patterns, and names, as if something inside her is trying to speak but cannot fully surface yet. The police admire her brilliance, unaware that what they call genius is actually a storm brewing inside her soul. Nelson, now a police sergeant, watches Lisa with concern. He remembers the day Bart died, he remembers how Lisa screamed, how she broke, how she stopped talking for weeks, how she returned to school, colder, distant quieter, he notices that same shadow inside her resurfacing now, but he cannot identify what it is. He only knows that Lisa is slipping somewhere he cannot follow. The murders continue, each one more brutal than the last, each one targeting a firstborn child, each one staged with deliberate symbolism, candles placed in patterns, furniture positioned with mathematical intention, drawings carved into the walls, twisted versions of things Lisa used to draw as a child when her imagination was bright and innocent. Before the trauma, before Bart was gone, every crime scene feels like a distorted reflection of her memories, and yet she does not see it, not consciously. In her lectures at the university, she begins to speak differently. Her tone darker, her examples more graphic. She describes how killers mirror their victims, how trauma reshapes the mind, how suppressed emotions can split the self. The students think she's being academic, but she is actually describing herself without knowing it, a voice inside her head whispering truths she is not ready to hear. The investigation leads her to old police tapes, recordings from the night Bart died. She hears her own screams echoing through the hallway of the morgue. She hears the doctor explaining that the blow was fatal. She hears Marge sobbing Homer, trying to make a joke that falls apart, and Maggie cooing confused. And in that moment, something cracks inside her, because the memories she buried start pushing upward like a second heartbeat. One night she dreams of Bart, not as she remembered him, but as a distorted shadow with empty eyes and a stitched smile. He calls her name slowly, Lisa, 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 and reaches to her, but instead of touching her, he places a knife in her hand. She wakes, drenched in sweat, panting, feeling a cold grip around her wrist, even though no one is there. And that night, another murder happens in Springfield, but Lisa does not remember where she was or what she was doing. At the crime scene, she studies the body of Sherry McElberry, her expression hollow as she kneels beside the markings on the floor. She traces the symbols with trembling fingers, symbols she used to draw when she played detective games with Bart, when they imagined solving mysteries around the yard. She feels something ancient rise within her, a memory of presence, but she forces it down, telling herself she's just tired, overwhelmed by the violence around her. Terry McElberry approaches trembling and explains that Sherry was the firstborn of the twins. And when she says the word firstborn, Lisa shivers because it connects every murder, the same pattern, the same meaning. And for a brief second, she feels the killer inside her, the way a ghost feels the cold of its own grave. She returns home that night and stares into the mirror for a long time, studying her eyes, her reflection, her posture. Something feels off. Her expression seems to change from one blink to the next, as if the mirror is showing two versions of her, the Lisa she knows and another one darker, hungrier, watching her from behind her own eyes, a shadow that grew from the night Bart died. Lisa goes to the old slaughterhouse, the place her intuition keeps pointing to. She walks through the rusted metal doors with a flashlight, her footsteps echoing like distant heartbeats. The walls are stained with old marks, scratches, drawings, symbols, things she does not remember creating, but her body reacts to them with familiarity. She enters a room arranged exactly like her childhood bedroom, except covered in grime and blood, as if her memories were rotting before her eyes. There she finds security footage, and when she plays it, she sees herself walking into the slaughterhouse, dragging Nelson behind her. She watches herself raise the knife. She sees the moment Nelson dies, and she lets out a sound that is not a scream and not a sob, but something broken, something primal, something that proves the truth. The killer is Lisa. Lisa stares at the footage, unable to breathe, unable to blink, as she watches her own body commit the murder. Her hands moving with precision, her posture calm, her eyes empty and lifeless like a porcelain doll. She sees herself dragging Nelson's body across the floor, arranging the crime scene with the same symbolic care that she thought belonged to a monstrous stranger. And in that moment, she realizes the truth. The killer had never been hiding outside. The killer had always been living inside her. The world around her seems to spin. The slaughterhouse walls breathe like lungs. She drops to her knees, clutching her head as memories rush back. Memories she had buried behind years of silence and forced strength. She sees her 9-year-old self screaming over Bart's lifeless body. She sees her hands gripping the bloodstained dock. She sees herself repeating over and over again, "It should have been me. It should have been me." And as that thought echoes through her mind, something splits inside her like a fabric tearing. Her other self emerges not as a ghost, but as a memory given life, a version of Lisa created on the night she lost Bart, a version built from rage, guilt, grief, and the desperate need to punish someone, anyone, everyone. She sees flashes of the murders, moments of walking through the dark streets of Springfield. Her breaths calm, her voice cold, her blade steady. She sees herself choosing the victims all, firstborn all, reminders of Bart all, symbols of what she lost the night Bob took him away. Lisa collapses against the old metal bed frame, whispering, "Please, stop, please, stop." But the memories do not stop. They pour through her like a flood, demanding to be acknowledged. The other Lisa, the shadow Lisa, was never an intruder. She was a protector, a twisted one, but still a protector, built by a brain that could not handle the weight of losing the one person who always understood her, the one person who made her feel safe. Nelson enters the room alive in her memory, but dead on the floor in reality. And she remembers what he said moments before dying. He told her that she was scaring him, that she had changed, that something in her eyes had gone dark. She remembers answering with a voice that was not fully her own, telling him he should have stayed away, that she had work to finish work the real Lisa would never have chosen. But the shadow Lisa embraced without hesitation. The sound of police sirens faintly echoes outside the slaughterhouse, but Lisa hardly hears them. She is too lost inside herself, reliving the moment she realized that killing Sideshow Bob was the only thing her shadow self wanted, the only unfinished business, the only closure that could silence the monster she had created. But the real Lisa refuses. This, she fights against the memories, fights against the instinct, telling her to complete the cycle, to continue the violence. But when the officers arrive, they do not arrest her immediately because they do not understand. Yet they do not see the truth inside her eyes. They only see a traumatized woman kneeling beside Nelson's body. Trembling with shock, they escort her to the car, but her mind is still in the slaughterhouse, still with the shadow self whispering louder and louder, telling her there is one final victim left. The prison is silent when she arrives, and Maggie, now a fully grown guard, escorts her to the same cell where Sideshow Bob once laughed at her, suffering the same cell where Bart died in her memories and her nightmares. The irony cuts through her core like a blade. She is placed inside and the door slams shut, echoing like a final judgment. Sideshow Bob sits across from her, smiling with twisted satisfaction. He taunts her again, congratulates her, tells her she finally embraced who she really is, the perfect mirror of the chaos he created. And in that instant, something snaps. Not in fear, but in clarity. Lisa realizes that the shadow self did not come to ruin her life. It came to finish his. Her breath calms, her eyes narrow. The shadow self fully awakens, and Lisa stands taller, colder, focused. She begins to hum HMS Pinafore, the same melody Bob used the night Bart died, the same melody that tied her trauma to his existence. She steps toward him slowly, her footsteps soft and controlled, and for the first time in years, Sideshow Bob looks afraid because Lisa is no longer fighting the monster inside her. She is becoming it. The cell is cold and silent. The only sound is Lisa humming the melody that has haunted her since childhood, the same melody Sideshow Bob used when he murdered Bart, the song that shattered her mind and birthed the shadow self that now walks beside her like a second soul. She approaches Bob slowly, without hesitation, without fear, and without the trembling doubt that once held her back. Bob tries to speak, tries to reclaim control, mocking her, threatening her, reminding her of his past victories over the Simpson family. But for the first time, his voice cracks, because he sees something in Lisa's eyes that he has never seen before. She is not angry. She is not grieving. She is calm, too. Calm, the calm of someone who has accepted the monster inside her. Someone who no longer fights the darkness, but uses it. She takes a knife hidden within her coat, a blade that a shadow self carried without the real Lisa noticing until now. And she recites the lines of HMS Pinafore in a soft, almost gentle whisper. As she moves closer, Bob stumbles back against the wall, trying to maintain his bravado, but the fear in his eyes betrays him because he knows what is coming. He knows that the cycle he started the day he killed Bart is finally reaching its end. Lisa raises the blade and with cold precision finishes the job her shadow self has pursued for years, the job that her mind created a second personality to complete. She ends Sideshow Bob once and for all. And in that moment, the humming stops and the cell becomes quiet again too. Quiet as if the world itself is holding its breath. Maggie, the guard, rushes toward the bars, seeing the scene unfold, but she does not scream, she does not panic, she simply closes the door and walks away, because even she understands that this ending was inevitable. The entire story, the entire cycle, the entire descent into darkness began with one death and ends with another. Lisa sits down in the corner of the cell, breathing slowly, her mind no longer divided, no longer fighting itself. The real Lisa and the shadow Lisa merge into one truth, the truth that trauma can create monsters, that grief can reshape a soul, and that sometimes justice and revenge become indistinguishable. Outside the prison, Springfield continues on, unaware of the storm that just ended inside its walls, unaware that the brightest mind of the city has become its darkest force, unaware that the girl who once played saxophone and dreamed of changing the world has now changed herself instead. And so the video ends with the same message the episode leaves behind. Nightmares are not always born from evil. Sometimes they are born from pain. Sometimes the gentlest heart breaks the loudest. And sometimes the smartest person in the room is the one closest to losing control. This is the darkest version of Lisa Simpson ever shown, and it all began the day Bart died, a moment that rewrote her life, her mind, and her destiny forever.